Alrighty, welcome back into the Dynasty Dumpster Fire Fantasy Football Podcast. These are your hosts Tanner and Marty, and we are back after a short hiatus due to a couple of different factors. One being I had a microphone malfunction and I was sick. Marty got a new dog, so we've kind of had a busy couple of weeks, but I'm glad to be back and recording again. Marty, how's it going? And how's your new pup?
Handful, but I'm loving it. How are you feeling? You feeling better?
Somewhat. I tested negative for all the really nasty stuff, so I'm almost back to normal. But it was kind of bad for a couple of days there. But now now that we've had a week off and we're ready to get back into it. And today we're going to discuss some buy, sell, hold, or avoid. So we went and compiled a list of players over. This was a week and a half. This is prior to week 9. We compiled some players who we thought were trending in a certain direction, whether it be up or down. And we wanted to kind of decide individually if we would buy them, sell them, hold them if we had them, or just completely avoid altogether. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the list and we're going to talk about each player, give our opinion on which one of those options we would do, maybe a little back and forth as to why. And I've got some visuals on the screen for anybody checking this out on YouTube. So sound like a plan, my man?
Let's rock and roll.
Let's knock it out. So we couldn't make a list like this without including Mr. Will Levis, because this was right after his big, huge kind of breakout first start that he had against the Falcons in week 7. So we've got a couple of his stats on the screen. We have his week 7 or week
8.
7. I'm sorry, week 8 and 9. My apologies. His
No,
week
you're
8
good.
and 9 statistics? Wait, is that correct? Is this 7 or 8? I'm just confused now. So
This is 8. This is
this
8
is
because
8, and
we got week 10 coming up.
okay. So yes, my apologies. So yeah, I got a little confused. So he was Thursday night last week. So we have both of his statistics because we planned on recording this earlier. So sorry if that's a little confusing why we have both. But so I'll let you go through some of Will Levis's stuff here, buddy, and tell me what you think you should do with him as a dynasty asset.
Well, prior to week 9, it looked like he was a fun start with some hesitation because it's hard to replicate that. But if you wanted it to be anybody, you wanted it to be you. For player profile, it was pretty impressive. I don't know if you set any records, but for about 65.5% completion rate and scoring 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, it was very impressive. I know he didn't have the full start because him and Malik Willis were going back and forth, and maybe that helped him. But being, a second round pick and the second pick of the second round, I was very impressed as a fan. And also just it was good football overall. What about you?
Yeah, so after that first week, I was kind of buying into the hype a little bit, although it was I wasn't in any position to get him anywhere. I imagine most of the people that had him were probably drafted him and believed in him or wanted to kind of see what he'd become. So after that first week, I was pretty optimistic, but I thought we needed to give him another week. And if we fast forward here to his week 9 statistics, somewhat similar, I guess. I mean, he didn't throw for all the touchdowns, but he still had a decent completion percentage. Still, threw for similar amount of yards. He did have a pick, but I think he looked pretty good on prime time in his first primetime start against the Steelers as well. And I do think that they may have their franchise quarterback of the future if he continues to look even similarly to how he looks now. So looking at some of the rankings and such, as of putting this together, and I don't know that this has changed, he was quarterback 17 on KTC. Is that still accurate? Have you looked?
I don't think that has changed because these are the stats I have for Thursday night.
Okay.
There may be some movement around, but regardless, I mean, it's still a solid ranking.
No, he's still 17. 17 is, so at that value, if you can get him for quarterback 17 prices, I think I'm probably a buy on Will Levis. Now, will you be able to get him for some of these guys in the same tier around him on the list? Like, he's right next to Sam Howell. So who would you rather have if you had Sam Howell? Would you send him in a small plus for Levis, or would you rather keep Sam
No,
Howell? Just for
you'd,
example,
you'd keep Sam Howell right now because of his constant and continual performance. It's just the excitement that comes around the Titans, and that's what makes it people optimistic.
and the draft capital though. So
Yeah,
he's a second round pick, whereas Sam Howell's got that fifth round stink attached to him. Although I do think Sam Howell, I do think he looks good. Don't get me wrong, um, but honestly, man, like if I was as much, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, but if you can get a plus on top of Levis for a guy like Fields,
mm,
I'm probably doing that. Um, I might even consider it with Bryce Young, depending on what the plus is. Although I do think he
yeah.
is kind of a buy himself at this moment. So, what are your thoughts on Levis's value and where he's at?
If I'm an owner, I'm holding him. If
Yeah,
I am not, I wouldn't buy him. I don't think anybody's gonna sell him to you. It would be a crazy and very steep up pay, and I don't think it's worth it. Not yet. I mean, just like anything, you want to invest in something that you feel confident in. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but still, I would wait a little longer till he has a number attached to his value.
late first, would you pay?
If
I think
I,
that's.
if
I think I
like at
would. I
this
think that's
point,
my
week
highest.
10, yep, I would pay a late first.
Yeah,
I'd rather pay a high second and
but
additional
that's about
stuff.
what he was going for. So it's
Yep,
yeah.
that's just where I'm at. I need to see a little bit more. If he does another big game, then he's going for a middle to high first now, and that's the issue. Every time he does well, he's going to go up. But the thing he has going from him is the yards. He did 238 in his first week with those 4 touchdowns, and then 262 last week. The interception doesn't really count because that was what ended the game on Thursday night. But he almost had a comeback victory, and that would have been impressive.
Yeah, I think for the majority of the game, honestly, until the fourth quarter, I think he looked better than Pickett just to the eye. But yeah, I think I would for late first price, I would probably buy anything above that. Yeah, I'm probably not doing that. But like you said, if you get in for a late first and he has another blow up game, another similar game to what he had week one, his value's increasing at that point. And before we move on, what do you think about his future? Do you think he's their answer at quarterback? I know it's only been 2 games.
Mike Vrabel, or Vrabel, whatever you pronounce his last name,
Vrabel, yeah.
Vrabel, he informed us today that he's the starting quarterback moving forward. So he could be the franchise quarterback. I think he needs to do a little bit more work like Sam Howell has done this year, and then he'll get that same chip, and he'll be able to carry that like he wants. Um, it
Yeah,
could
I
be
think I think
possible.
I think he's their guy. I mean, I
I
don't
don't
know.
think they're going back to Tannehill, but
Well, and they already announced Tannehill as the backup, which I thought was interesting. I mean, and they're not going anywhere this year, so why not ride
mm-mm.
him out the rest of the year? So I think,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but I guess this essentially means if we didn't think so already that Malik Willis is dead too, but we already knew that. So,
Yeah, R.I.P.
all right, moving on. So again, we were looking for players that were trending one way or the other at this current time when we kind of decided on the idea for this episode. And obviously, Will Levis was kind of trending up at that moment. Devontae Smith prior to Week 9 was trending down because his performance for pretty much the last 3 or 4 weeks was pretty subpar because we had those giant blow up games from AJ Brown. He was on that huge historic streak of 125 plus receiving yard games. Um, and this past week, we saw a pretty decent performance from him. He did catch that long touchdown, which is a pretty nice play. But looking at some of his stats for the season, so through 9 games, so he had 60 targets, 42 receptions, 533 yards. We look at his yards per target and yards per catch, 8.88, 12.69, and then 4 touchdowns. One of them again coming in the game this past week against the Cowboys. So wide receiver 13 value on KTC. And if we look at his value on the season, he's the PPR wide receiver 18. So what are you thinking about Devontae Smith at this current point post week 9 as a dynasty value?
Um, for the value he is, that's what makes it hard to pay up for that. Especially when you look at his production. He rarely breaks 20, at least depending on your format. He's struggling to even break certain thresholds. I don't even think he's hitting his projection numbers, to be honest. It's just, there's a lot of weapons in Philly, and it's hard to feed everybody. And he's taking a pinch in that. However, with the injury to Daughter, maybe there could be some optimism with what happens. I heard that he's probably going to be placed on IR with 4 weeks out, for that fracture in his arm or wrist, wherever it was, in that that extension of him. So that might open up a channel for a Smith, because I don't think there's anybody else who's as competent as Goddard for tight end in Philadelphia. So it might be a plus. If you don't have him, I would encourage those to buy because of that injury, and especially with the bye week, that really do put certain managers in a kind of a craze for those who are like really hustling to get into the playoffs. So if you need him or you want him for your future rebuild, he could be a fun, maybe a lower marked price. So there is that opportunity. I know he's probably going up for a high first to mid first, or maybe a first and maybe something complementary to it, but still, I mean, I feel like you can get him for a late first. I don't think you can get him for a second, but I think you get him for a late first, though. Or maybe a player of equal value.
So you're saying he's a buy?
I would, especially with these 4 weeks coming up, with Goddard being out. Sorry.
So he's yeah. I see what you're saying. Like projecting and the schedule. I mean, but their schedule coming up is pretty brutal. I don't know if you've looked
Correct.
at their
So
schedule.
that means AJ Brown can't do what he normally does.
Yeah, I guess you're right. So
It's just, if you want to take that gamble, that's the only thing I'm going to pitch, and it could be worth your pay, especially if it's cheaper than what he's actually worth.
at wide receiver 13 prices, I'm selling for sure. Depending on what you can get him for, but I don't think he's ever going to have. I don't see him hitting the ceiling that he had last season, where him and AJ Brown were both top 10 receivers. Like I said, if you can get him for a discount, because of his recent performance, although I do think, even though he only had 51 yards, he had that big splash touchdown last week. So I think that window is kind of closed, maybe a little bit more than it was. But if you can get him for a discount, I would consider it. But seeing as that he's the one, or he's the two in that offense, and it's pretty clear now. There were some questions about it before. I don't think anybody's questioning that to this point. I'm selling, and if you look at his targets though as well, he has eclipsed 4 targets, 4 games this season. I'm sorry, 4 receptions, 4 games this season, which in PPR formats is not really what you're looking for.
No.
And he's been a wide receiver 1 twice. So, for what we thought he was going to be and what he's actually done, I think AJ Brown has just kind of asserted himself as more of a dominant figure. So I guess to your point, if you can get him cheap, late first, of course, I'll probably throw a late first at him. But wide receiver 13 prices, I mean, what does that have him near on KTC? I'm going to go figure that out. Like, what does it say he's equivalent value to?
I'm not even sure.
I'm going to go look real quick. I can figure that out pretty quick. It says he's equivalent value to, I went a little far here. He's equivalent value to wide receiver 13. So you have him equivalent value to Travis Kelce, Kyler Murray, a 25 early first, Mark Andrews, Brandon Ayuk. I might take Ayuk straight up, man.
No, I would too. It's just he's marked up because of the team he's on, the quarterback he has, the offense, the way it's designed.
Yeah.
It's just, if you can get someone who doesn't want any part of him anymore, maybe you can get him for a fair market price, and that could be beneficial for the long run. But like
according
you
to
said,
KCC, sorry to interrupt you. According to KCC, you can get T. Higgins and a plus for him, and I see him and T. Higgins as about damn near the same player. Good offense, second fiddle in their offense. Higgins had a great week last week, so I'm taking Higgins in the plus.
And there's optimism behind Higgins for next year with the new team, potentially.
That is correct.
Sticking on Smith, though, I don't know. If you can get him, great. If you have him, sell him. You can get, if you need that reinforcement, you can, but don't sell him for less. That's my advice to any owners.
If you were hoping to have him as your wide receiver 1, you're disappointed for sure. And some people were in both of our big dynasty leagues that we're in together. He is the wide receiver 1 of both of those managers, and that's because of where he was going in startup drafts last year, and for the value that he was carrying coming into the season. And I think that he's certainly underperformed for that value. So, so I guess depending on your perspective, he could be a buy or a sell, depending on how your league or how the manager values him. So
I wouldn't hold him and I wouldn't avoid him, but I would buy or sell.
Yeah, I would do something with him. because he's not performing for you to hold him, and he's still a valuable asset, so he's not quite in a void either. So moving on to Chris Olave. So Chris Olave was another player who was kind of trending down a little bit, not really to any fault of his own, but just the Saints have been abysmal, or playing really underperforming quite a bit for what we kind of expected with them, with their big quarterback upgrade of Derek Carr. But if we look at Chris Olave through 9 games, so if we go through his statistics, 85 targets, 50 receptions, 563 yards, very kind of short yards per target, 6.62, 11.26 yards per catch. 2 touchdowns, which was one of the big issues. He wasn't getting in the end zone. He did find the end zone this past week, which is pretty cool, only for the second time this season. And he's currently wide receiver 9 on KTC, and he's wide receiver 19 in PPR on the season. So I'll let you go first again on this one. What are you doing with Chris Olave?
At this point right now in the season at week 10, I would probably avoid him. If you have him, I would hold him. You can sell him. I'm just worried that no one's going to pay the price that he's worth. Based off performance and recent production, there is nothing of value. So I don't think you're going to gain anything. I think you have to sell under to make anything happen. And if you don't have him, don't get him. Avoid him. But I think your only 2 solutions here is either to hold or to avoid. It just comes down to where you stand as an owner. I like him, but right now, based on what we've seen, I wouldn't want him on my team.
You wouldn't want him on your team at all? Top 20 receiver? Top 24
Not right
receiver
now.
tier?
Not this season. If you're trying to make a push in the playoffs, I wouldn't have my faith on him coming. I mean, this season has been complete disastrous.
So rest of season, you'd rather have Smith than him?
I'd rather have Kamara or even like Rashid Shaheed from them.
You'd rather have Rashid Shaheed than Chris Olave. You're talking out of pocket here, dude.
It's okay. I've been disappointed with what we were expecting to have a wide receiver 1. When it comes to the Saints,
But their offense is
clicking.
They barely beat Tyson Bagent last week in the Bears. I mean, they're not good.
No, but they keep putting Taysom Hill in there for some reason, and so Derek Carr don't get an opportunity to throw the ball to him. It's just the way their system's designed. It just does. That's what they do.
They have an ugly system, but we're differing here too. Olave's a buy to me, because of his recent performance. If he's on a competitive team, you can go scoop him up. But he's still, I mean, he's not killing you. He's a wide receiver 2. He's not the wide receiver 1 you wanted as of right now.
He's good for a rebuild.
So same thing. But I still think if you can get him if he's wide receiver 9 prices, I mean, I put him right in the same tier as Devontae Smith. So I would probably am not buying at wide receiver 9 prices. But if he's valued, a couple spots lower, if you can get him for I'd pay mid. I'm paying mid first for Olave all day. Is that too expensive for you?
No, that's fair, especially when he's in the top 10 as a wide receiver 9.
Okay. So yeah, I'm paying mid first for sure for him, but I definitely think he's either a hold or a buy. I'm not selling at the low point, and I don't think he's in a void after what we saw last season. If you feel that he's in a void, you also have to feel that Garrett Wilson's in a void. So
yes and no. I see more of determination and just this hunger in Garrett Wilson that I'm just not seeing in Chris Olave. It just that routes he didn't run in week 9 were they're dreadful. It seemed like he gave up.
For Olave,
he seems like at the same energy like George Pickens. Like he's like, I don't know. It's not there.
Yeah, but he has outperformed Wilson both seasons so far. Just saying. So I mean, if you just are going by who you like as what you see it from them on the field, I get it. But no, Olave is a guy that I think you should buy, and I think that better days are coming. And if they can't figure it out with Carr, they might be in trouble because he's on a multi-year deal and an expensive deal. But
so go buy Chris Olave.
I think so. Or according to Marty, completely avoid him. So that's what you get here is complete opposite takes. But that's why we do the show with 2 people, so we have multiple opinions. Moving to another guy that's currently trending down and is still continuing to trend down. We were just talking about this guy before. So Kenneth Walker, running back for the Seattle Seahawks. So we have 8 games because he's had his bye, if I have that correct.
I think we made a typo. I think it should be 9.
Well, no, it's been 8. He's played 8 games. He's played, It's through 9 weeks, but he has played 8 games. He's had a bye.
Oh, you know what? You're right. I had a brain fart.
He is currently has 532 yards in the season, has 4.22 yards per carry, which is pretty decent. his yards per carry last season were a little bit higher, but that's one of the big things about him that people liked is that he's explosive and anything over 4 yards per carry is pretty good. He's not really being used in the passing game, which we know is not his strength. He is on pace currently to beat or almost kind of match what he did last season in terms of receptions and yardage, but it's not a lot. 20 targets on the season, 15 receptions, 100 yards. Where he was doing his damage in the beginning of the season is he was getting in the end zone, although we've seen that come to a stall. He hasn't had a touchdown in the last 3 weeks. And these past 2 weeks, man, we've seen his attempts drop significantly. So if we look at week 7, 26 attempts, week 8, 8 attempts, week 9, 9 attempts. So do you think that's injury, or do you think that Pete Carroll's seeing something in Charbonnet that he thinks has earned him more touches?
I think the secondary, especially the pass and catching, Charbonnet has really done what Walker can't. The only thing Walker offers is that explosiveness, and he's very fast. But the last 2 oppositions have been really tough with the Browns defense and the Baltimore defense really stuffing him up. It's really brought him back down to earth. I think he's primed for a bounce back weekend against the Washington Commanders. I love my team, but I just don't think they're going to be able to stop him. However, if Charbonnet does take advantage of opportunities that Walker doesn't do, this would be a great week to sell him. I just don't like how close he is to his heels.
Are you talking about selling Charbonnet or selling Walker?
Selling Walker.
Oh, I'm selling Walker big time, man. This is alarming to me only because, like you said, Charbonnet clearly is their guy on in the 2-minute drill. So if they're trying to move quick, also in the passing game, so on third downs, he's their guy. And they've been underperforming, so they've been down a lot this season. I mean, you just saw him get waxed by the Ravens. So, yeah, RB8 according to KTC. So he's kind of settled in the middle. So I know he dropped significantly in the offseason. Before the offseason, he was as high as like RB3. He was top 3 on KTC. So RB8 values, I'm selling, and you said you are as well. And
I'm actively am.
Yeah, we're pivoting. Yeah, we just talked about how you can get off of him. We're pivoting to if I'm pivoting. You tell me where the line is, so where we would pivot down from and feel comfortable as a competitive or a semi-competitive team. So we've already talked about you're going down to Saquon, correct? They're right beside each other.
You're going down. Jacobs.
No, I'm reading the list though. So you're going down to Saquon. You're going down to Eckler comfortably, correct?
Oh, yeah.
As a competitive team. Jacobs, we've already talked about. Swift, you're going down to?
I would.
Yeah, me too. Pollard? Is this where it gets a little
I think
iffy?
that's where I would cut off, just because the run game, they haven't, what is it? He hasn't had a touchdown since week 1 or week 3 or some shit like that?
Yeah, Pollard has not looked good.
Either it's him or the system. Dak can throw now, so that's been good to see, but still.
I guess it would depend on what the plus is. Like if you can would you sell Walker for Pollard in his 24-second? I think I'm doing that.
Yeah, I would do that. But I would try to get rid of Pollard again quickly and try to move down maybe to Joe Mixon at that point.
Yeah, at that point, now all of these guys are just blending together. Like I would even go down. I would probably go as far down. Rachaad White after that week he just had.
Rachaad White looks real. I kind of disappointed I didn't grab him when I needed to. I know you had him before the season ended, and then you got rid of him, but still, it's been a nice turnaround for him.
And I know you don't like Pacheco, but for this season as a competitive team, would you pivot down to Pacheco? He's looked a lot better.
He's been looking great. I just don't like what they do in Kansas City with these running backs. You never know if you have a job. And for fantasy managers, I don't like that.
Okay. So, and of course, you'd pivot up pretty comfortably to any of these guys above him. It would just depend on what you're willing to pay, right? Any of these.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kenneth Walker, kind of scary hours at this point. We'll see if we can get a job deal done, and maybe we'll have a trade on the trade show in the next couple of weeks if you selling Kenneth Walker off.
They would, of course, if any trades I make, they always blow up after I trade them. That's what I've seen.
Yeah. So just some background. Marty traded C.J. Stroud this week for Herbert, which long term, fine. I'm taking Herbert long term. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Herbert fan, but of course Herbert had a terrible week. And C.J. Stroud broke the rookie record for passing yards. So,
yeah,
that was
to make the viewers a little happier. It was Herbert and a first. I think it was a middle first or late first, And then I only had to give away Sam Howell and C.J. Stroud, so I got my money back. It's just I did not get my points.
Yeah, fine deal. It just hurts as a team as you're kind of on the fringe for playoffs. You're trying to get into the playoffs, so hopefully I can perform this week. I'm still trying to keep my bye week, so
Yeah, we
I'm gonna
match up this week. You're
I'm
right.
gonna try to smash you. But who knows? Maybe you could have an upset, and then hopefully your schedule lightens up. You could sneak into the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. And you still got that first in your back pocket.
All I
So
gotta do is make it up one more rank, and then I'm in.
and it's close. I mean, you got three guys at 7-2, and then the next it drops down to yeah. So
Yeah, but
it gets
anyways,
pretty
yeah,
close. Yeah, I digress. So last guy we want to talk about here is another running back who we think is now he's trending in the other direction of Kenneth Walker, and that's
yeah.
Jonathan Taylor.
I would buy and hold, and the other way I would sell and avoid.
Yeah, so Jonathan Taylor is
He's on
finally
fire.
becoming. I mean, he's not. He was RB. He's been So since his return, he's been a top. I mean, he's been an RB1 or two every game. And again, that's not that hard with the current running back landscape. But this past week or these past 3 weeks, he's looked really good. Our only concern was the opportunity that it looked like he was splitting with Moss, but that was kind of put to bed this past week against the
Hmm.
Panthers. Moss was not given any work, and it was all going to Taylor as it should. But through his four, I guess that's technically 5 games played at this point. But that's okay. We didn't fix that. Through his 5 games, he's had 62 attempts, so he's rushed for 250 yards in 5 games, which isn't too bad. He's averaging a little over 4 yards a carry. I think the exciting thing about Taylor now is that he's being used in the passing game. Um, he's being used in the passing game. Our graphic is also a little bit wrong here because according to our graphic, he currently has 1,139 receiving yards. I'm going to quickly fix that. You're going to fix it. He has 131 receiving yards, but he's being used in the receiving game. He caught a receiving touchdown this past week. And he's currently RB6 according to KTC. So why are you holding or buying, as you kind of spoiled in the beginning there?
Apologies.
No, it's okay.
At this point, it is clear and evident where he stands. I was lucky to get him before he had that type of explosion. I didn't get him. I didn't have to pay nearly as much as I should have. So I was very happy where I paid. But at this point, if you can get him, get him. It's only one way up. He's not going to have the season he had last year because of time, but still, bouncing back from his injury and from the dispute with his contract, it is clear that they have their number one running back, and he is ready to dominate. And for fantasy managers, I'm all about that.
And I'll tell you what, man, I think they might be one of my favorite teams to watch next season because
Mm-hmm.
healthy Anthony Richardson, hopefully. Michael Pittman has looked fantastic. I really like what I've seen from Josh Downs as well.
Yep.
And they might end up. I don't think they're not a playoff team, so
Mhm.
they're going to be picking somewhat early. I just think that they're going to be pretty exciting. And then Jonathan Taylor, of
Mhm.
course, is signed. So I think that team they're going to be kind of a big sleeper uh, in the AFC next year. But
You have
I'm
to.
with you. I might not be buying. Yeah, I take that back. If I'm buying, I'm buying now because I think his value is going to continue to climb. Maybe prior to what it was before, if he keeps performing, because he has value and he has name value and people like him. But like you said, the time to buy was 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. So
Mhm.
if you did that, you're probably feeling pretty good about what you got him for. Um,
This is how Dynasty works. You never know.
yeah, and those people riding the Zach Moss train are uh, probably trying to get off now because I think that's over with. That was a fun little ride, but I think that's probably done. And you got off of him too, didn't you?
I did, and the funniest story was once I got off of him, I got Jonathan Taylor shortly afterwards. It's funny how things work out.
Yep. So I like that. I like his value. So we just wanted to kind of do this. Well, I think this is going to be another thing we try to do maybe once a month. We won't obviously be able to do this as much in the off season because values aren't going to fluctuate quite as much. But during the season, I'd like to do every couple weeks, do a buy, sell, hold with some trending players. We'll have a trade show, maybe not this next week, but maybe the week after, depending. We've had quite a few trades go down, so we might do another one.
Yeah.
we'll have to kind of chat, but we're going to be back on our weekly schedule. And then again, once, if we can ever get out an extra episode over breaks and things, we will, but we're definitely going to get back to that once a week schedule. So sorry about missing a week, but Marty, it was fun chatting with you, man. Any last parting words for the guests here before we close up shop?
We're back.
We are back. We'll see if we can stay consistent. We're going to try our best, but hopefully I have a working mic now, and I've got my once a year sickness out of the way, and you're not going to be buying any more puppies anytime soon. So
nope, they're one and done.
So yeah, we'll keep you guys posted on trades and things. Got some active leagues coming up. We also might do we'll definitely try to focus on some trades probably, and maybe some trade values towards the end here, because a lot of leagues have trade deadlines that are coming up. So I think we're probably
it's like the 14th or 7th, something like that.
It's coming. So we're gonna look at that. But
no, sorry, the 14th, not the 7th. Today's the 7th.
Yeah, the trade deadlines for some leagues are coming. I think trade deadlines in some leagues are like week 10 or 11. I don't know, but
that's this weekend then.
Yeah, that's crazy. So anyways, so everybody enjoy the rest of your week. We've got a big barn burner coming up on Thursday night with the Panthers and the Bears. And then we've got Thanksgiving week, and I'll be seeing the Dallas Cowboys play the Panthers.
Oh, you forgot to mention we got our first Black Friday football game.
Yes, we do. Black Friday football game, and so we've got some good football that week as well. Got lots of football that week. So anyways, thanks for joining us. Check us out on YouTube for the visuals of all the statistics and things that we use for this. Anybody that checks us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, thank you for your feedback or any kind of interaction that you have. It's greatly appreciated. We will see you guys on the next episode, and thanks for listening.